An electrifying hybrid of Louis Saha and Mane, or a roided Gervinho? Just how good is Mathys Tel?
Die Bayern machen es halblang. 5 Minuten noch, Tel.
From a statistical perspective, Tel's numbers indicate he's a credible goal threat, albeit not at the level of a consistently prolific number 9. His XG reflects someone who does find himself in promising positions, but the conversion rate isn't elite yet. I think from the eye test, what we can see is that he's a player who blends raw athleticism as well as technical explosiveness. His right foot, his primary weapon, is capable of producing thunderous strikes with minimal backlift. He generates power similar to a Didier Drogba, where the ball just pings off his foot with speed and precision, particularly with the finesse technique. His left foot isn't as polished as his right, but it's still a capable tool. Doesn't possess the ability to score from distance regularly, but when he does, it hammers off his left foot as well. So a two-footed player, I'd say. In terms of his shooting range, yes, he's got the two-footedness, but there is still a lack of variety in terms of shot selection. Most of his finishes rely on power and explosiveness. I don't think he's got enough chips, volleys, lobs in his locker. And if he's going to compete with someone like Harry Kane in the long term, he's going to have to be able to score all these different types of finishes if he's going to be seen as a world-class striker. Nevertheless, he can score from unconventional positions. Overall, though, I'd say he lacks a diverse repertoire. He's over-reliant on power-driven shots, and that limits his ability to adapt in scenarios which require a bit of subtlety and a bit of finesse.
That's why, as of the next round, there will be video assistant referees at every game.
While his pass accuracy is high, for me, he lacks ambition. He's hesitant in attempting risky, progressive passes on a regular basis that break the lines, create attacking opportunities. He's no Hazard out on the wing. He's not a wide playmaker in terms of how he just collects the ball. I think he's unable to use his body effectively. When he's pressed from behind, he struggles to shield the ball and maintain possession. And that contrasts sharply with someone like Harry Kane, who excels in using his body to hold off defenders and link up play. I think his first touch, it's serviceable, but it's not yet a real tool that advances play consistently. Even out wide, when fullbacks press him from behind, he rarely turns into space effectively when receiving the ball. So then that forces him to adopt safer options on the ball. I think his link-up play, overall, it's an area of significant uncertainty. I think there's limited footage of him really operating as an effective focal point in possession. And if he wants to be a number 9, he's going to have to master these situations where there's physical battles in possession. Because at the moment, it's limiting his ability to act as a reliable outlet under pressure.
Major announcement. I've just passed my FIFA agents exam, so now officially a FIFA licensed football agent. So if you're a young player who needs advice, whether it's nutrition, whether it's technical, tactical, psychological, I can guide your career from academy level all the way to the pro level. If you're an existing pro level player and you need representation when it comes to contract negotiations, as well as all that technical stuff, transfer strategy, what's the best steps to take with your career, we can give you that guidance. We also work closely with clubs and directors of football, helping them with issues such as scouting, how to get the best out of their personnel, giving coaches tactical guidance as well. All the services that we can provide are all available on our website. Check the description below. So if you want Pythagoras in Boots as your football agent or even as a consultant, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Here's Tel. And Müller leading it. And how about that for a finish, Leon Goretzka?
Statistically, in terms of creativity, Tel's assist numbers are strong, but I think this is inflated due to his crossing ability. If you look at his actual through balls, they're sparse, so he doesn't really have a central playmaking focus to his creative arsenal. What I would say is that in terms of his deceptive passing ability, this is fueled by his ambidexterity. He's a bit like a Louis Saha, someone who during the 06-07 season was very hard to read for Manchester United because opponents didn't know whether he's right-footed or left-footed. So when he ran with the ball, teams couldn't read when he's going to release the ball with which foot, and this opens up angles for passing. He's also quite a flary player at times, so he's unorthodox, and this can also lead to passes you never really saw coming, but these moments are sporadic. Teammates never know whether they're coming either. Overall, I'd say Tel's passes occasionally lack the weight and timing to consistently break down defenses. He's someone who's more suited to a wide position rather than a central playmaker type of role. Even as a wide playmaker, I'm not sure if he's got that footballing IQ monster type profile of a Hazard or Neymar, players who had a superior blend of vision, precision and composure. I think he's better at crossing rather than through balls. In terms of being a striker, I don't think he's going to have that consistent creativity of, say, a Harry Kane type of profile. But I think compared to a Louis Saha type of profile, he'd be on that level in terms of how he can break open defenses due to that unpredictability element.
Here's Tel. A stretch. He's got it through. Oh, off the post.
Their own formation. I've been watching the tactical formation of Bayern, and it's not really.
Tel dribbles frequently per game, but with a low success rate. He's someone who's very inefficient when he's dribbling from deeper areas, but he is more dangerous when he's operating close to the opposition's box. His sharp body shifts and deceptive movement can really unsettle defenders in one-on-one situations, particularly when he's able to isolate them diagonally. His agility and quick feet do allow him to manufacture those shooting angles, making him a real threat inside the box. I think he struggles more when he's up against defenders who are more composed, physically dominant. Once he engages in physical contact, he often loses the control of the ball, fails to maintain balance. I don't think he's got the strength and stability at the moment to power through challenges. I think his dribbling becomes erratic when he's under pressure, when he's outnumbered. Unlike a Saka who seems to grow in these situations, he tends to panic, rely on pace rather than technique, and he runs too often into opposition players rather than attempting to navigate the situation with subtlety and control. Yes, he's got quick feet, but overall I think his dribbling lacks refinement. He's nowhere near, say, a Lamine Yamal in terms of the range of skills that he has to offer. His dribbling in comparison looks more raw and undeveloped. When he's trying to drive the game from deeper positions, even though he's got pace, he lacks composure and he tends to just run into players rather than really thinking it through whether he can use that burst of pace at that moment in time. Overall, I'd say compared to someone like a Yamal level of talent, he lacks the same level of composure, technical finesse and decision making. For me, there's a lot of room to grow here. Hey guys, just to let you know, we've just created a new channel. It's going to be more like a podcast type of setting. You're going to meet the rest of the Pythag gang, in-depth analysis as always, but in more team-based type scenarios, more hot topic based content. So please subscribe to the Pythagoras Perspective. And also, if you're interested in watch-alongs and weekly fantasy football discussions, also consider subscribing to us in our playback channel. All of these are available in the description below. See you guys there.
Mathys Tel. And still no...
In terms of his crossing ability, Tel is equally effective with both his left foot and his right foot. That makes him a uniquely unpredictable option in wide areas. He's able to cut back to the 6-yard box, targeting late arriving runners. His inverted balls have a combination of whip, float, dropping just over the centre-back's head and onto the head of dangerous strikers, drilled low crosses across the face of the goal, delivered with real venom, precision, power, making them ideal for quick strikers at the far post. Overall, his crossing, it's well thought out. It's aimed at high value zones like the penalty area or areas where you know strikers are going to gravitate to. He's pretty intelligent in terms of his execution. I'd say overall, not world class yet, but I think he's got the composure and the technique with his crossing, which is quite rare. This could really be harnessed into a real weapon, in my opinion.
It's not that I don't believe he can do it. It's just my idea. Let's wait for this.
Yes, and Muller's there.
Seen here by Pavlovic. Up goes Tel! Oh. On the line, held just about.
In terms of his aerial stats, much has been spoken about Tel's 48% success rate. You know, that's very high in terms of aerial success rate for a player so young. The strengths that he brings to the table is that he's very athletic. He's got a great leap, he's got quick reactions, and that gives him the edge in aerial duels. He's also very courageous. He doesn't shy away from challenges, and this never back down attitude makes him a constant aerial threat. In terms of room to grow, I think, yes, he's got the physical tools, but his heading technique lacks precision and control. He's not really able to direct his headers with accuracy at will. But I think with time, this could improve his effectiveness in front of goal the more accurate he becomes. Also, with his physical profile, you know, I can't really imagine him competing with centre-backs like Van Dijk, especially in terms of aerial duels from goal kicks. I think at the moment he's able to get such a high percentage because his aerial ability is better suited to bullying fullbacks rather than centre-backs who are less physically imposing. Overall, I don't think he's, at this moment in time, he's like an Olivier Giroud type of player. He's just not. But what he could do is try and model his game on a Cristiano Ronaldo and become like a wide aerial threat, really targeting the far post areas against smaller defenders.
Ant with it. Neuer wasn't quite sure whether or not to come for it. Musiala.
That pass was not up to his usual high standards.
From a defensive point of view, I feel like Tel is a player with a lot of potential because he's got that athleticism, that speed. He's someone that could really be harnessed into a pressing machine. At the moment, however, he's someone who can make the odd interception well, like he positions himself quite well. But in terms of his pressing, I don't really see him press with the level of enthusiasm and hunger that I'd really want of a guy of his level of athletic brilliance. 55% dual success rate shows that, he's someone who is relatively effective, but I don't think he shows enough enthusiasm with his pressing and aggression. I think there's more work to be done here to convert him into a player like a Firmino or Thomas Muller or even a Timo Werner. I think these type of players are able to harness their physical potential better. At the moment, I think Tel needs to improve his understanding of defensive systems, pressing structures, and understand why him leading the line and really putting the afterburners on will really help his team going forwards. So yeah, room to grow here, but for me, a lot of potential here as well.
Suspicion that there's one goal left in this game. Ooh.
Almost there.
Guerrero was almost on cue.
In terms of Tel's long passing, 66% accuracy rate is really, really high. And for me, this is definitely inflated stats because from the eye test, I wasn't as impressed. I think he does have this ability to generate power and distance on his passing. That finesse ping technique that he's got, the ball really flies off his foot with pace, but at times you see him underhit the ball. So I don't really know what's going on there, but I'm sure with a bit more experience, he'll weight those passes a bit better, make sure that they get that bit of extra flight so they're not cut out by the opposition fullbacks. When he does get it right, there's a lot of bend and whip on his long passing, and it looks aesthetically pleasing. So it can be a dangerous pass if he gets it right. He does scan the field and look for opportunities to distribute the ball over distance. So that proactive mindset, I think that's a positive indicator of his potential to develop into a reliable long passer. But for sure, at the moment, underhits his long passing, leads to a lot of turnovers. I think his decision making generally when to switch the ball needs to also improve, and his overall game understanding and his technique does require refinement. But there are some raw materials here for this to be a good weapon in his game if he gets it right. We're just going to have a quick look at Bayern Munich from a tactical perspective to see where Tel fits in or he doesn't fit in and why he might not be getting as much game time as many would expect. Now, we see Bayern Munich set up in usual 4-2-3-1, but in reality, it looks more like a 2-4-4 in possession with wingers holding the width, two fullbacks flying forward, and the midfield four with two forwards sort of dropping in here in Muller and Kane. And usually you have Musiala there as well. What Coleman brings to the table as a left winger, a direct competition for Tel, let's just say, is that he brings this ability to beat his man, get down the line, put crosses in with his weaker foot, but generally he wants to cut back onto his right foot here, and he wants to put crosses into the box for the likes of Muller and Kane to get onto. Whereas what Tel brings to the table is that when Tel gets into these pockets here, he can be a direct threat on goal. He can also go down the line, put weak foot crosses in here, but he's most dangerous when he gets his man squared up on the edge of the box here, does a little body shift, gets himself into here, and he's got a really powerful finesse strike. So Tel is a more direct goal threat than a Coleman in a side-by-side comparison. Now, where Tel's weaknesses arise is that when Tel finds himself in a 2v1 situation, he panics. He's someone that tends to want to drive at these two players here. And unlike a Lamine Yamal, who can be outnumbered and still come away with the ball, Tel tends to just run directly into the opposition and lose the ball straight away. So unless he's got a player who's close by with him that he can link up with, as soon as he's outnumbered, the odds are he's going to lose the ball. Now, another weakness that Tel has is that, let's just say the ball is in a deeper area of the pitch. Now, whereas someone like Coleman, you can trust to drive the game forward from a deeper position. In fact, you could say the same about every single one of Bayern Munich's wide players. Musiala, Elise, Sane. If they're in a deep area, you would suspect that they can beat 2 or 3 men and turn defense into attack very quickly. Whereas Tel, despite having a lot of pace, as soon as he just bursts that ball there, if he gets a shoulder barge, that ball's going out of play. He just hasn't got the strength to power through with his dribble and drag that team up the pitch, which is why he's more useful towards the end of games where either there's a lot of space to work with and the other teams on the back foot looking to really go gung-ho in the attack, or if Bayern Munich are trying to open up the opposition and they've already established a very high territory, and therefore he doesn't really need to pick up the ball from deep areas anyway. That's when he's most effective. Now, we've had people also mention that Tel should be playing as a striker. Now, let's just say Harry Kane out of the situation, bring Coleman back in. What Tel's not going to do is operate in these deeper areas and really be like a passing maestro, play these balls in behind here. He just hasn't got the hold-up play to do that. And the reason why is, one, he hasn't really got the composure and the IQ, I'd say, of a Harry Kane, especially at this moment in his career. But as soon as he gets hit into the back, let's just say that ball's been played into him and he's got to shield this ball. It's been hit into him. As soon as he gets that nudge in the back, that ball's going to the opposition. It's a bit like a Højlund situation, not as bad, but he just hasn't got the strength in terms of his hold-up play to really then create that pause on the ball and then create that time with the ball and then find his passes with nice time, which Harry Kane can do, but Tel can't do. We then move on to Chelsea. And we know that Chelsea, with the likes of Madueke, they've got established patterns of play. Madueke is someone that can go 2v1, 1v1. He doesn't really care, can go inside, outside. And a lot of the play is centered around wingers doing things out of nothing. On the left flank, there's a bit more support. Cucurella does tend to overlap at times, but even then, he tends to sit deep, and Sancho's expected to create miracles most of the time. Or if he does hold up the play, guys like Palmer can go out wide and create that overlap situation here. Tel is not coming in this Chelsea team. If he was to go to Chelsea as a right winger, it would be in this left wing spot or in Jackson's spot, which we'll touch upon later. Again, what Tel can give you is that I can imagine Palmer feeding through balls through and him being a goal threat. I think he offers a direct goal threat that Sancho doesn't. Mudryk potentially could have, but hasn't to date, but Tel could provide that. He can also obviously square his man up, get inside, and produce powerful shots on goal. But like I said, where he will struggle is that if he's expected to, go 2v1 if Chelsea on against low blocks, he's not going to really break those low blocks, especially in the Premier League. He's not really going to have the strength to do that. Now, people have mentioned, could he play in Jackson's position? Now, for me, what would happen if Jackson was removed for Tel is that Tel is a much more precise finisher. But in terms of hold-up play in the channel areas, he's not going to be as effective as Jackson. Jackson is one of the best hold-up players in the Premier League. I think the only player that's competitive with him is someone like Isak. Tel is not going to have the physical strength to dominate in the Premier League, especially against centre-backs. For him, it's going to be about being fed through on goal and then, running onto something and then putting the finish away. But we've seen with Højlund where, yes, you might be good at running in on goal, but if you can't trouble a backline with your physical strength, your hold-up play, your link-up play, it's like playing with 10 men at times. So my concern with Tel is that you're bringing in a player who's also quite raw, whereas what Chelsea are looking for is a definitive upgrade to a Jackson, someone who can do all his hold-up play, but is going to be reliable in front of goal. I think Tel is more reliable in front of goal, but not to a degree where he's consistently going to be banging in goals and his overall link-up play is still pretty raw. So, yeah, something to think about there. In conclusion, Tel does remind me a bit of a Louis Saha, where he's quite flimsy in terms of his strength, but at times he can be wirily strong. Overall, though, I'm disappointed in terms of when he picks up the ball deep. I'm not seeing enough efficient usage of his athleticism. I think he needs to get stronger in his lower body and develop his hold-up play, even out wide against fullbacks, let alone against centre-backs. I do like his combativeness in the air. I like how he jumps for every header, even if he doesn't really have a chance of winning it. So I think that shows that there's a player there with spirit. In terms of his mentality in interviews, it all seems very positive. So I think there's a good head on this kid's shoulders and he will look to continue to grow. It's just he's a very raw player at this moment in time. When he's close to goal, he's really good at manufacturing shots on goal. So I see a goal for it in this player. I think his ball striking technique is so clean. I think he needs to add more variety to his game, even with regards to his shooting. His dribbling, there's evidence of quick feet, but I think he needs to widen his range in terms of his footwork, his repertoire of skills. In terms of his passing, it's okay, but it's nothing mind-blowing. So for me, there's a player there with quite a high ceiling, but there's no guarantee that he's going to reach it. So he's another project footballer. I don't look at him and I look at someone like Musiala who looked predestined to hit elite levels. This was an alien type footballer. I don't see Tel in that category of footballer. I think he's someone who could potentially become a world-class footballer, could even be a generational type forward, but there's going to have to be a lot of work. This is a player who's going to have to work on a lot of different facets of his game to reach his potential. It's not just going to happen to him overnight. So you can see why Bayern Munich have been hesitant in terms of giving him game time, because they can also see that he's a raw footballer who's not ready yet for the first team level, especially with the expectations of a Bayern Munich. I think if he comes to a club like Chelsea, I think fans are going to have to temper their expectations. He's not someone that's going to come in and really push them to new levels straight away. He's also another footballer that's going to have to learn his trade. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see you guys again next time. Bye.
Spare for Guardiola, joy for Mourinho.